Hello, I am Rocky Ishmael. Today I want to explore a very important question. Many people are confused about this subject and are asking questions. Can speaking in tongues be a non human language? Let's delve into the scriptures to answer this question. The first time we see speaking in tongues in operation in the Bible, it is in the book of Acts. On the day of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit was poured out on 120 believers who were gathered, praying and waiting for the promise of God. The Bible tells us in Acts chapter 2, verse 4, that when the Holy Spirit came upon them, they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. The Holy Spirit gave them the ability to speak in other languages. From this verse, we can make two important observations. First, we see clearly that the languages given supernaturally by the Holy Spirit weren't learned or taught. Second, some of the languages spoken were understood by many as human languages. People from many nations who were in Jerusalem were amazed to hear their own native languages spoken by individuals who had never studied these languages. From this passage, we can confidently establish that speaking in tongues can include real human languages enabled by the Holy Spirit. But now we must ask ourselves the question, is that always the case? Are tongues always human languages? Or could they also include languages not known to man, perhaps angelic or spiritual languages? Let's look deeper into the scriptures to find answers. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1, the apostle Paul makes a profound statement. He said, "Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal." In this passage, Paul makes a distinction between tongues of men and tongues of angels. By including tongues of angels, Paul clearly affirms that not all tongues are human languages. He establishes that there are heavenly or angelic forms of speech, languages not understood or known to humans, but still very real and spiritually significant to believers. There are tongues that are spoken to God that are non-human languages. Paul describes this in 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 2, where he writes, "For he who speaks in a tongue does not speak to men but to God, for no one understands him. However, by the Spirit he speaks mysteries." This kind of tongue is a direct line to God. It is mysterious, spirit led, and often makes no sense to the human ear. These tongues are not meant to be understood by humans. They are meant for personal communion with God in a deep and spiritual way. So why would God use non-human or angelic tongues? Paul answers this in 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 4. He who speaks in a tongue edifies himself, but he who prophesies edifies the church. Tongues are for spiritual strength, for personal edification, and private prayer. You do not have to understand tongues to receive the benefits of tongues. Sometimes our spirits reach out to God in ways that go beyond our natural language or human understanding. The language may not make sense to us or to anyone else, but it is fully known and received by God. So the answer to this question is yes. Speaking in tongues can absolutely be a non human language. Speaking in tongues can be known languages, as seen in the book of Acts, It can also be an angelic or spiritual language spoken in private prayer and worship, which is a mystery spoken by the Spirit intended for communication with God rather than humans. Thank you so much for watching. If this topic challenged or encouraged you, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. See you in my next video. God bless.